Hello, today we have with us Leah Hutcheon. She is the founder of a scheduling app called Appointed. Today we are going to be telling you how women founders can scale a startup to achieve a global presence. Welcome to Leading with Women, Leah.
Hi, thank you so much.
So Leah, what sparked the idea of a scheduling app?
It came really from my own need to use a scheduling app. So I was previously a very busy magazine editor and I used to do a lot of traveling. And I would often find myself in a new city with some time on my hands and, you know, the opportunity to maybe go and get a massage or to get my hair done. And I wouldn't know how to connect with these businesses without having to call them or, you know, just turn up and hope for the best. So I'd had the idea for Appointed then, and then unfortunately I was made redundant from my role as a magazine editor in the financial crash. And so it just became the opportunity for me to start to explore what running a startup might look like and explore the market for scheduling. And from there we were able to build up a proof of concept and just really speak to businesses, and in the early days it was very independent businesses, and it was about getting them access to the kind of software that the bigger businesses already had, but getting that software into the hands of independent businesses. Since then we've scaled and we actually work with all sorts of different sizes of business, but in the early days it was about speaking to independent businesses, and we heard a resounding yes. They really wanted to be able to take bookings online from their website or from a mobile app or just even from within their emails, and so we started building Appointed as it is now.
So you did mention that you had to explore a lot. You must have gone through a lot of trial and error. How did you eliminate ideas quickly and inexpensively?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, trial and error is something that is so important, and even now at Appointed we really try to fail fast and to fail forwards. One of our Slack channels is dedicated to that, about sharing the experiments that you've done that haven't gone the way you'd like them to, or mistakes that you've made, because it helps us to all learn from the mistakes of each other. So yeah, I think just being really mindful of the fact that if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not being brave enough and you're not innovating enough. So really trying to imagine, like, one of the questions we ask ourselves a lot at Appointed is, what would this look like if it was easy? And so we just really try and simplify something down to as small a chunk as possible. Then we can execute that and take the data points and take the learnings from that. An example of the way we've deployed that within our development cycle is we now use a process called Shape Up, which I would recommend to anybody building product, because it just allows you to break down products and kind of features into bite-sized chunks, make a bet on them. So you kind of say, right, we'll bet 6 weeks on this piece of functionality, build it, test and learn and iterate. And I think that's something that has allowed us to scale in the way that we have.
So you did tell us that this is how, if you keep making mistakes, that's how you learn and grow. But I have read previous interviews of yours, and you actually have gone through multiple pivots where you had to go back to scratch and start again. So in that, how did you manage to keep the lights on? Like, any advice on how to keep the cash flow going? How did you sustain yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, the pivots that we have made have largely been because of cash flow. So the need to keep the lights on and the need to look at the business with dispassionate eyes and see where the value lies, what's working and what's not working, and to turn off the bits that aren't working. And Yeah, that's been super tough at times. But I think when it comes down to whether you can kind of keep a business alive and, you know, maybe slim it down to half of what your vision was initially, or lose the business as a whole, then, you know, for me it was a really easy decision to make, albeit a bit painful when you're turning off parts of the software, or you know, our biggest one was we had a customer facing portal that we decided that we had to kill, which was a big emotional decision, but was the right one because it allowed us to focus on building world leading software, because we were a small team and we had to focus and execute. From a point of view of how we've kept the lights on, in the very early days, I went into credit card debt, into my overdraft. I borrowed money from my parents. It was, you know, real blood, sweat and tears in the early days. And then we won one of the first Scottish Edge Awards, which allowed us to hire and I say allowed us, at this point it was just me, but allowed me to hire our first developer. And then we raised investment. And I think each time we've raised investment, it has been a real kind of clarifying process of understanding where others see the value in the business and really focusing down on those. So each time we've raised investment, I would say we've also learned something about the business and iterated, and, you know, to some degree sometimes also pivoted at that point, to make sure that we're really clear about where the value lies in the business and there's a really undeniable kind of value proposition there.
So it has helped you map out your future strategies better?
Yeah, absolutely. It clarifies the mind. I think, you know, we have always been quite a lean team, even now. So there's 29 of us at the moment. We're hiring, but, you know, that is a fairly small team compared to the value that we've created and the businesses that we work with. So I think just being able to create that value with a fairly small team, you have to just be super focused and you have to be aware of what will make an impact.
Okay, talking about Appointed, the concept of the app seems to be selling time. What is the value in making time a commodity?
I think time is the most valuable commodity any of us have. And I think, you know, when you look at businesses are so aware of cash flow, but how aware of time flow are they? And, you know, we all know that time is money. It's a cliche, but it is. And, you know, to you know, go back to the fact that we're a small startup, lots of businesses, you know, you have limited cash, but you also have limited resource. And so how you deploy that resource makes the biggest impact on your business. And I think sometimes that isn't given the respect that it deserves. So, you know, if you're doing one thing, you're not doing something else, everything has an opportunity cost. And so at Appointed, we really are passionate about freeing businesses and, you know, just people in general from the burden of manual scheduling. We did a piece of work a while ago on understanding our value proposition and understanding the business case for Appointed, and we found that on average businesses were spending around 15 minutes to and fro on making appointments and scheduling those appointments, because, you know, if that's in a B2B setting, it's emails back and forward and, you know, things put in the diary and then have to be changed, whereas with Appointed, that is putting the scheduling in the hands of the person who wants to book with you. They're very easily able to do that in, you know, 10 seconds, and then it's in your diary. If it needs to be changed, it can be changed. If it needs to be cancelled, it can be cancelled, and it just removes all of that human interaction. So that's hugely valuable for,
and all the
any
save time
business.
Gets accumulated.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the assumptions that the market has disapproved till now? For example, your market size, customer persona, your CLTV, etc.
It's been so interesting, and actually it changes so much. So obviously the whole world has changed over the last 18 months with going into the pandemic, and straight away we saw our business change hugely, where we would previously have, on the enterprise side of our business, a sales cycle of around 6 months that very quickly dropped to days, and in some cases hours. We were able to kind of turn opportunities around because businesses needed to change their business overnight. So yeah, that sales cycle absolutely was smashed. I would say the total addressable market as well was smashed, where we were looking at some of our sectors where we had really great traction, all of a sudden massively changed. So retail would be a good example there, where we were very focused on bringing people in store. So it was about connecting with a customer online and bringing them in store, whether it was for a personal shop or an event. Straight away, of course, everything closed down, and so there was no need to bring people in store anymore. However, what we saw was a real move to virtual events and virtual personal shop. So the addressable market hugely increased, and our bookings, if you look at our statistics over the last year or so, we can see very clearly the pandemic kind of etched on those numbers. So yeah, it's been a real time of change, and equally the market has changed. There are a lot more competitors now. Other software types have deployed scheduling from within them, so we're seeing more CRM systems or point of sale systems have scheduling baked in. So yeah, it's been a very interesting year.
That's against the contrary narrative, but somehow positive to hear.
Yeah, and it is, I think, it's been such a tough year, hasn't it, for everybody. We've been very lucky in that our solution has been as relevant, if not more relevant in some ways. So yeah, we feel very fortunate for that. But I do think out of all of this change and all of this disruption will come a lot of change and a lot of opportunity. And we expect to see lots of new businesses popping up to solve the very different problems that we have now as a society.
Okay. So women typically have a harder time scaling up, especially when it comes to raising money. What were your challenges in raising capital and scaling up revenues?
It's hard to say what challenges are because I'm a female founder and what challenges are just, the fact that we're in Scotland, or the fact that it's a scheduling business, or the fact, you never really know why somebody says yes or no to you. I mean, when you look at the stats, it's crazy and it's undeniable that it is harder to raise money as a female founder. I think it's one penny in every pound in the UK goes to female founded startups in venture capital. So, that is absolutely crazy. I think there's another 11 pence in the pound that goes to mixed gender founders, and then the other, whatever that is, 89p, 88p, goes to male founders. So the statistics are undeniable. That said, I think I've been incredibly lucky that we've been able to connect with investors who have understood the proposition, who have been patient with us, and who have allowed us to build really world-class software. And I don't think that's I definitely feel very fortunate to have done that, because I think quite often, if you bring on the wrong investors, the business, your vision starts to get diluted at a very early stage. So yeah, I feel very fortunate for that. I think having won the Scottish Edge Award was a huge piece for us, because it allowed us to get to a point where we had customers when we were raising money. So we had a product, albeit very slimmed down to where it is now, but there was a product there were customers. they were, you know, paying us and seeing value from the software. And I think that just de-risked it massively. I think without that, I would have found it very, very difficult. So I would say to anybody who is looking to raise money, and especially women trying to raise money, get to a point where you can prove your value in the market and make yourself undeniable as much as you can, because it is super tough out there and you are going to come up against all. I think any founder or any entrepreneur comes up against way more no's than they do yeses. But yeah, when you look at the stats, women do come up against more no's. So do everything that you can to de-risk yourself.
Drawing upon something that you said about engaging with the right investor, building a business is having an ongoing conversation with the market. What did you do to better engage with your team, customers, investors, and partners?
So we keep a really open dialogue with all of those stakeholders, and we see everybody on that list as, you know, really key stakeholders in the business. Communications with the team have obviously been disrupted over the last wee while. We had a very close team. We had a lovely open plan office where collaboration was just at the heart of everything we did, and transitioning to working from home was tough. I think we were lucky. Again, you know, we use Slack religiously within the business, so that wasn't too much for transition. But, you know, moving into the kind of working from home, obviously things had to change, and we've worked really hard and really mindfully to make sure that communication has stayed really tight between the team members. With regards to our investors, we're very lucky. They're engaged. They want us to do well. They're cheering for us. They're making introductions, and they're open to having those conversations. We've got some amazingly smart investors who I can pick up the phone to or ask to, you know, have an email exchange or whatever that might be, that facilitates me to unlock some of our problems and the wider team. And I think one of the big things for us has been having a really engaged board who are hands-on and who are approachable and who want to be engaged with the team. Our chairman has been leading our board from the very, very beginning, so back in 2014, so 7 years, and he knows the team really well. He's up for coming and facilitating brainstorms or you know, facilitating sessions for us to explore things. And I think that makes a huge difference when it comes to kind of, yeah, the communication. And then the customers, you know, we're in a constant conversation with our customers. We like to say that Appointed gets into the trenches with our customers, and we really do. I think we've been able to differentiate through service over the last, well, forever really, but certainly over the last 18 months, where businesses have just needed you to be on hand, to be able to move quickly, to deploy, but also to work closely with them and understand their KPIs. And I'm really proud of the active relationships that we have with our customers. We're there with them, shoulder to shoulder, solving the problems.
That's very nice to hear that there's a constant channel of communication which is open.
Absolutely.
So Leah, as Appointed grows, how do you effectively switch contexts at work and continue to remain effective?
It's so tough, isn't it? Yeah, I think in any startup, it's super tough. I think we find it hard because we are so applicable to so many different industries. So 1 minute our team will be marketing or talking to a very small business, a micro business, one person, you know, maybe an independent photographer or a small salon with 3 people. And then we're, you know, in the next breath talking to a Fortune 500 company. We work with 2 of the big 4 consulting firms. We power businesses like Iron Mountain, Westfield Shopping Centres. So some of the world's biggest customer companies. And that kind of, just jumping from between all of our different sectors and problems that we're solving can be tough. I think you have to stay really true to your value proposition. We stay really true to our values. We let our values help us to make decisions, and I think that really helps. You know, if you know your set of values, you know the vision and the mission that you're working towards, then it helps with decision making. But yeah, it's super tough, and I think especially again as we're all working from home, the disruption is constant. You know, we've had to work really hard to make sure that we don't become a slave to Slack or to email, or we're not constantly on back-to-back Zoom calls. And I think that's a challenge that's even more real in the current challenging times that we are in. So yeah, no silver bullets, but just being mindful of making time to do the important things, and making sure that you set out with a really clear aim of what you want to achieve that week, and hopefully you achieve it.
So that brings us to a favorite question of mine. Is a good founder necessarily a good CEO? How are you getting better at this evolution?
That's a great question. So no, I think is the answer. And it's something that I constantly interrogate myself on. And I think I definitely have the kind of open-mindedness and just the appetite for the business to succeed, to know that I would be happy to step aside when I no longer think that I am the best CEO for Appointed. And it's a conversation I have, you know, with the team and with the board. And you know, you need to be, everybody in a startup, if you're in a role, then you're in the way of somebody who could potentially be twice as good as you are. So you have to be cognizant of that, and you have to ask yourself, am I the best person for the job at the moment? And I really do believe that I am at the moment, but I definitely don't think it's a given. And I think as we scale, constantly asking ourselves that in every role within the team, you know, am I doing as well as I could be? And if not, being open-minded to shifting. I think one of the things that we've done really well in Appointed as a whole is really encouraging the team to flex and to try things outside of their traditional role as we scale. And each time we hire, we look at the jobs that people are doing and we kind of put it out to the team, so we see lots of movement between departments and movements kind of up and across when we're scaling. And I think having that tradition of really mindfully interrogating, am I making the biggest impact I could be at the moment, and if not, where could I make a bigger impact? And I think, yeah, that is right the way through the team, so definitely up at the CEO level.
So always keeping an open mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, yeah, asking yourself if you are the right person for the job. And that's not to say, you know, if you think the answer is no at that point, it doesn't necessarily need to be a straight swap out, does it? It then becomes something that you work on with coaches or with other people within your team, or you know, do reading or whatever. So I think it's just having a growth mindset and being as open-minded and as pragmatic about your role. And I think as a founder, you always get to be the founder. So for me, I feel very lucky to be a founder CEO at the moment, but you know, if the time comes when somebody else can do a better job, I really believe in our product, and I'm so passionate about getting our product into the hands of as many people as possible, because I believe, you know, we see the impact that Appointed makes when it's working with a company. And so if somebody else is better placed to help scale that, then I will be really open-minded to that, because at the end of the day, it's about the company, and the company is much bigger than any one person.
On that note, thank you so much for being on Leading with Women, Leah.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It was a really nice chat. Thanks so much.